Can people on Zoom here now?
Awesome. Oh my gosh. See, maybe that is an example of user experience. Perfect. So basically, guys on Zoom, all you missed was my spiel about me. You guys don't need to know about me. My name's Ishrat, and that's all you really need to know. So we're just gonna go into who I work for, Decision Theater. Okay, can someone give me like a thumbs up that you can still hear me? Anything in the chat? Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. All right. I know, that's why I'm just like, my gosh. So yeah, so who is Decision Theater and who are we? We're actually part of the Global Future School. We're kind of like a research entity, symposium. I don't know what's the best way to phrase it, but basically what we do is that our goal is to provide the tools necessary to the community so that they can be informed, and with that information, make decisions. So the screen that I show you above, this is actually our pride and joy, the drum. It's essentially a room that has 7 giant monitors, and we build software specifically for these 7 giant monitors. We have tables, and the goal of that is through all of the information that we show you guys, it fosters decision-making, scenarios, discussions. It's a very cool experience. If you have a chance to experience it, I hope you guys do. But we do this through multiple ways. We can do it through, like, you can see presentations, those 2 that you see like right here. We do it through Tableau. We make our own custom software, but at the heart of it all, what we do is we try and tell visually compelling stories through data that hope to drive conversations. We also create purposeful desktop applications. So this is actually something called FuVision or FuView. When you get a copy of these slides, there's a link to everything you need in here. This is an amazing tool that we built that basically shows like supply chain of commodities throughout the United States. So you can select your state, you can select your commodities, and it shows like where things are coming and going. The reason why I chose this one is that at Decision Theater, we have to be extremely purposeful with everything we do. Because we hope to interact with data, we need to have our users spend more time with the information than learning how to get to that information. Okay, over. You have some context who I am, Decision Theater is. Let's talk UX. Have you ever been taking like a form and you have like 1,000 drop downs and you're like, none of this matters? Or have you ever been into like using an application where you're like, who designed this? It's our fault. User experience is encompasses all aspects of an end user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products. Very broad. Don Norman actually founded the term in 1980 when he was working with Apple. So you think about Apple and its reputation for great UX, Apple versus Android, that's a whole other session. That's taken apart over here. But if you think about Apple and how it's revolutionized how we interact with things, the swipe down to see all your notifications, how we know that instinctively, if we pick up a tablet, that's how we do it. But it's also like a fancy way of saying human factors engineering. I think it's also a lot easier when I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Ishrat. I'm a human factors engineer. It's a lot less off-putting than saying I'm a UX designer. But the abridged version is that UX is about 2 things. It's about empathizing with end users when creating new products and services, and it's about creating the best experience when users engage with your products and services. All right, also let me know if I'm going too fast. You're a lot like different than my mirror, so. So let's get to the nitty-gritty about why we're here. How does UX apply to data visualization? And to answer that question, I kind of want to walk us through a scenario. Has this ever happened to you? You've got a new data visualization project, whether it's through an email, ServiceNow, through a class, and they say, hey, I want you to build this thing with this data set. You say, sure. I'll just gather data, I'll get the requirements, I'll find where it lives in the database, I'll put it all together, and I'll start developing it. You start developing it. You make all the back-end changes. You may start building the front end, whether it's through Tableau, whether it's through custom software. Then it's time for the dreaded showing it to the customer. The customer doesn't like it. They think that copy should be changed. They think that a pie graph should be a bar graph. They think that maybe this data set that you chose doesn't quite represent what they want to show. So you go back and you visualize it again, and you go back and you go back and you go back till finally they like it. And you don't know why you started building it in the first place. The end product doesn't match at all what the initial goal of the project was. So I kind of spoiled it. But user experience design comes in when it comes to gathering data requirements. Our goals, specifically in data visualization, is that user experience is about connecting stakeholder expectations to end user value propositions. I know what I said sounds like a bunch of word salad, so let me break it down. Stakeholders have goals that they need to achieve when they reach out to us. Our job as user experience designers, or in this case, data analysts, is to bridge those goals and build something that users will want to use, all while making sure that our stakeholders achieve their goals. It's a lot, but when you start thinking like, what will someone want to use versus, oh, this is what our stakeholders want, you're going to find that this cycle maybe is 80 years instead of 84. All right, so who is using this? Who is this for? This is the most important question to ask, because the more that you learn about who is supposed to be using the tool, the more that you can learn how to design your tool. So I have a quick definition. So end users, as you've been hearing me say, are actually people who are going to be using the tool. So they're the people like, I'm an end user right now using this podium. I'm an end user for Google Slides, which I'm using to present. I'm that end user. And the more that you understand about me when I'm trying to use your product, the more impactful my product will be. There's a reason why I go to Google Slides over PowerPoint. It's because I find more value in Google Slides over PowerPoint because I like that it's collaborative. I like that it is free. And it's easy to understand. I like that it's an enterprise tool. So things like that, little things that maybe slip through the cracks when you're gathering requirements, makes it so much more enriching for when you want to start designing. Some questions that I've had to ask: how technical does it have to be? Are you building for general public? Are you building for someone internal to ASU? Are you building for technical professionals? How much that leads into how much data do we need to show? Does the general public really need to know something super complex, or do we need to give them the high-level overview? How will they be accessing this? Are they going to be doing a 7-screen presentation like we do at the Drum? Are they going to be using it on their mobile phones? Are they going to be using it through Tableau Public? Are they going to be using it through the web? All of these lead you to designing the best product possible. Oh, so there's an entire field in UX called UX research, because this is the abridged version and not like a 10-week course through Coursera. If you're super interested about learning more about users, I highly recommend you guys look up UX researching. All right, so now we're going through the idea that we understand who our user is and what they value. And you've added those requirements to your dashboard when you're about to get designing. So let's get designing. UX is about implementing user psychology and anticipating what users will do based on what they value. So if you're, say, using a phone, you know that users are anticipating when you get a notification, it's going to be a badge. and you should anticipate that when users drag it down, they'll probably have multiple notifications. Put an icon that says who you are. So we're going to walk through one of these individually. I got these from the Universal Principles of Design. But in all honesty, when I first started out, I Googled UX principles what? And these are the ones that I find are the most helpful for data visualization. I've also added the sources at the bottom. So the 20 fundamentals of UX design, that's something that I constantly reference. And then the laws of UX is an entire website dedicated to when you want to get more into design. So with that said, let's jump right into it. First things first, you want to make sure there is a visual hierarchy, and users should be able to understand the importance of data visually versus technically. You shouldn't expect your user to know two pieces of data correlate with one another. Second, consistency. End users shouldn't have to rearrange their thinking just so that they can get through a visual. If colors mean something, make sure those colors are the same across the entire tool. Findable and usable. This one is somehow like a gotcha. Of course you want it to be findable and usable, but end users should be able to find the data that they need easily. That means filter placement. That means legend placement. That means if you're going to do a tooltip, how does that tooltip look? Accessible, all end users should be able to use your dashboard. It should be, your colors should be colorblind available. You should put tags to do screen readers so your alt tags and your images should leave descriptions. I've left a link for web accessibility standards because most of the time when we're developing dashboards, they're for the web. Minimalist. This is the one that I struggle with the most. End users should not be overwhelmed. Just because it looks cool does not mean it should be in there. I will say this again, because my UI designer has said this multiple times, and she is right. Just because it looks cool does not mean it's good. And credible, especially in this age of misinformation, credibility is very important. Chances are, if someone's going to send a screenshot, you want to have your logo. You want to have ASU's colors. You want to have your brand's colors. So that said, let's go into wireframing. So wireframes are actually how you implement these UX principles. Wireframes, like the name suggests, are just frames to hold your ideas. They're preliminary sketches to see things where they would go or how your users would interact. It's always better to work from a good foundation. I've listed some free tools, Figma, Balsamic, Adobe XD is the ASU standard, pen and paper. This was done on pen and paper. I show you the end version looks gorgeous, but when I was doing wireframing, I did this quick, very, very low fidelity sketch. And it basically is for how we're trying to deliver water throughout all of Arizona. So I was like, well, we want to focus on a map, visual hierarchy. And then when you click on something, the arrows will take you to a graph. It doesn't have to make sense for everyone. It just has to make sense for you. When you go to high fidelity wireframing, then care about that. But for the first step, make sure that you jot your ideas down. I've also created a list of inspiration because sometimes we can't pull something out of nothing. So Dribble Awards is actually a really, really good one. They're the web awards. I use them a lot to figure out things about placement, how we want to design things, how we want to set up layouts. And then I also look at our past work. Don't worry, I've already linked these, so when you get the slides, you'll have all the links available to you. All right, it's all coming together, right? Hopefully those synapses are forming. So let's recap real quick, right? Knowing who you're building a dashboard for helps you accomplish your stakeholders' goals, all while creating value for your end user. There are some UX design principles that I included that help you organize your thoughts and represent an end user's experience. And then we've implemented those principles using a wireframe. All right, so here's the sucky part, and I apologize, but let's design a dashboard. This is going to be pretty interactive. So here's a data set that I put together. It just shows like month with temperature, average happiness index, spent on retail therapy, and then items purchased. I'm a customer and I've come to you guys. I want a dashboard built out of this. So let's build one. So step one, ask the right questions. What are a couple of questions we should ask? Guys, if it is silent, I will come in real close and this will be real bad for all y'all. That's a great question. To repeat the question, it was, how do we want to have the data displayed? Do we want it in a chart? Do we want it in a map? Any other questions we should ask? Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Yes, the question was, who is the dashboard intended for? What's the story you're trying to tell? I love it. You guys, this is amazing. If I could record this and send this for my PhD application, I would. Did Zoom have any questions that they wanted to ask? Yeah, perfect. Zoom, I love you too. Yeah. So I made it real simple because I only had 2 slots, but why are we building this dashboard? And the answer is, I just want to be able to show the correlation between temperature, happiness, and how much someone spends. Who's the end user? People who want to understand their finances and identify when they spend the most money during the year, also known as my bank when they're trying to stage an intervention during the summer. So, easy step one, right? Step one is going to take you the longest time. Trying to learn more about your end user is very time consuming, but so rewarding. Step 2, we're going to wireframe. So this is one that I built in Figma. As you can see, it's very, very low fidelity. I personally like it when there are cards that summarize data across the top. I put titles and I've like chalked up blocks of where things should go. So visual hierarchy is an easy way to do it is use titles. If you say how temperature impacts daily life on the top, you've already set the expectation for what users should expect. And then with this hierarchy, what we've done is we've also let end users follow your train of thought. And so when you get ready to develop, it looks like this. Now, I know UI-wise, it's not great. I'm very spoiled. I have an amazing graphic designer on my team, but this isn't bad, right? We have, it kind of matches the wireframes. I made it not match the wireframes on purpose because I just wanted to show the importance of getting your ideas. Ideas evolve and your end product might not look like your wireframe. All right, so we've done some credibility. We've added a logo to let people know who is presenting the data. In this case, it's Decision Theater. It is not sanctioned by Decision Theater. I just slapped our logo there. You know, I made it accessible and consistent. These are actually colors that Tableau provides that are accessible for colorblind individuals. And then I made it findable. I grouped similar graphs together so that users know that the data is related. All right, so here's some good practice for graphs, because again, just because something looks cool does not mean people will like it. Keep it simple. Sometimes an oldie is a goodie. Distributions, stick with pie charts, donut charts, bar charts. Trends, line charts, and bar charts. These are things that people are more familiar with, and they've already organized their brain to process that type of information. Tree maps are great for hierarchies. Process flows, I love Senkeys. They're great. And then remember, just because it looks cool, if no one understands it, no one cares. So I also included some resources. This is from the Nielsen-Norman group, and their top 10 usability heuristics. I've included a link. They're like the foremost of UX innovation, UX design. All right, we did it, guys. How much time do I have left? 5 minutes. All right, so feel free to contact me. I'm ishrat@asu.edu. I'm just Ishrat on Slack. And then you can learn more about us at the Decision Theater. Those links are there. All right, 5 minutes, questions. Was I so good that no one has any questions? 10 out of 10 would come again. 5 stars, perfect. I will be reaching out to each and every one of you for a letter of recommendation for my PhD program because you have not. So if you ask questions, you're out of this. Yeah. Oh, I ruined the mics and accent like this. So the question was, what are some questions that I hear often? A lot of the questions that I hear often is, why are you doing this? Because you can propose anything all you want. If you don't have a good reason as to why you're doing something, and you don't have the user value statement to support it, then when you propose something, if someone doesn't have that idea in their mind, they're like, don't do it. So again, the more data that you have about what your end user values, the more empathy you have for them, the more chances are like your stakeholder is going to agree with an approach you're having. Well, that's it. Thank you guys very, very much for being a very engaging crowd. I really appreciate it.